Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone. My name is Abigail Black. I am an Impact MBA candidate here at CSU, and I've also been working with Kelly over the past 2 semesters. I am also an environmental policy specialist and have had several different roles before coming here to CSU. And so I wanted to share a little bit about my experience. I'm sorry I couldn't be here today. I happen to have a finance class at this time, but just wishing you all good luck on your own finals. I hope you can wish me good luck on my finance exam. I'm nervous for that one and also excited. So here are the things that I thought that I would talk to you about today. I'd like to give you a little bit about my background, as well as my career path so far and lessons learned. I understand that you will be graduating soon, and so sometimes it can be helpful to hear what it's like, life after graduation. And then I'll also tell you a little bit about the CSU Impact MBA program, since that's what I'm doing now, and I think it's a really fantastic option for you if that's something you're interested in. So we'll go ahead and dive in. My background, I'm from California. I grew up in a small town called Arcata in northern California. That's like 5 or 6 hours driving from the San Francisco Bay Area up north. And I also included a photo of Humboldt Bay, an aerial photo there on the right. Humboldt Bay is the second largest bay in California. And I included the Native American name for the bay, Wiggy, because I work with Native American tribes up in that area. Here are some photos of the area, just to give you an idea of my childhood and the beautiful nature that I grew up in. There's this rugged coastline, lots of redwood trees. There's still some old growth forests up there, even though there was a lot of logging in the past 100 or so years. There are still old growths that survive. And there's also 6 different rivers in the area. During the summers, my family and I would go up inland and raft and swim in the rivers. So lots of good memories, spending time in nature. There's also the Arcata Marsh and Wildlife Refuge within biking distance from my childhood home. Both of my parents were wildlife biologist professors at Cal Poly Humboldt State University, so they instilled in me a deep appreciation for the natural world from a very young age. And I took that care for nature into my education and my career path. So I've got this fun little chart here of various places I've been and worked. Starting over on the left here, I earned a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Studies with a concentration in sustainability and social justice, as well as a minor in political science. I happened to take 6 months off during that time to solo backpack through Central America, and completed 2 internships while still in school. Both my parents, as academic advisors, had told me that it was important to get work experience to start to test out what I liked and didn't like in a job. Um, and let's see, when I graduated after 2017, I had been interning with the city of Berkeley, and I did that for about a year. And I also did a separate internship with the NRDC, Natural Resources Defense Council. I'll go into a little bit more depth on these organizations in the next slide. After that, I was hired on full time, my first full time job with the California Coastal Commission, a state agency. I worked with them for 2 years. Learning the ins and outs of working at an environmental state agency. It also inspired an interest in a field of study called eco-psychology, which looks at how people feel and think and interact with the natural world. Um, And after that, I ended up quitting the Coastal Commission and wanted to explore an alternative career route, do a little bit more self-discovery. So this is around the time of COVID and thereafter. Um, I got certified as a yoga teacher. I ended up teaching about 1,000 hours of yoga after that. I got certified as a life coach and was exploring the concept of becoming a climate coach, helping people work through climate anxiety and become more of an activist and an advocate within their own walks of life. And it was around that time then that I started interning with my current organization, a nonprofit called Save California Salmon. And I've been with them up until now, the last 3 years. And I've been really inspired by that organization's work, thought maybe that I could either explore a managerial role within that organization or start my own nonprofit or something of the like that does good, sustainable environmental work. And so that's where the MBA, the Masters of Business Administration, comes in. And I'm very fortunate that they allowed me to keep my remote work and take it over here to Colorado so that I could complete this MBA program. So now I'll go into a little bit more information about the places I've worked, the organizations that I've worked, in case these types of organizations are of interest to you. And if there's any information that I missed or more that you would like to know about these organizations, I would love to hear from you. So don't be afraid to reach out. So back when I was still in undergrad, I interned with Vote Solar, which is a solar campaign company. I worked specifically on their net metering campaign, but they've done a lot of work um, with a goal of bringing 100% clean energy to California. And they've got some great stats there listed on the slide. I also interned with the Natural Resources Defense Council. They're also known as just the NRDC as their acronym. They're an international environmental nonprofit. They have about 700 lawyers, scientists, and other policy experts. And they've been a major player in some really important environmental work, including securing the Clean Water Act and banning ozone depleting CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which are really damaging to the atmosphere, and protecting the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge from drilling, as well as the Keystone XL pipeline, which you might remember from a few years ago. I also worked with the city of Berkeley for about a year as an intern, and then after college, I was able to bump up my hours. The city of Berkeley is a really incredible city in terms of their sustainability efforts. They have a fossil fuel free goal that they'd like to reach by 2045. And the way they're going about that is by banning natural gas in new building construction, expanding electric vehicle infrastructure, and they have an electric bus, municipal bus fleet. They also have mandatory recycling and composting services, trying to reduce waste that goes into landfills. And I specifically worked on their building energy savings ordinance. So I was working closely with new building owners, real estate agents, and the like, making sure that all new buildings in Berkeley had energy efficient appliances as a way of reducing their fossil fuel dependency and trying to meet those climate action plan goals. So that was really cool, but it was another position where I was just waiting for a role to open up, hoping to get hired. Didn't happen, but I happened to apply to the California Coastal Commission and was accepted and ended up working there for 2 years. I became a senior coastal planner, and the California Coastal Commission, um, it's a state environmental agency with the goal of enforcing the Coastal Act, which is one of the most powerful environmental laws in the United States, aiming to protect and enhance California's coast. um, and wanting to protect access to the coast, endangered species, sensitive habitat, cultural resources, and recreation. If you've been to the California coast and the East Coast and compared the public and private access, you'll notice that there's a lot less public access on the East Coast and a lot more public access on the West Coast, and that is because of the Coastal Act and protecting our ability to access the coast. So it's really special for a lot of reasons. And the way that they protect the coast is through the planning and permitting process. So that basically involves, if you're a planner, then you'll be looking at development projects and analyzing the environmental impacts of the project. So the project could be like the demolition of a pier or the construction of a hotel. Any sort of development that happens within the coastal zone has to go through a planning and permitting process, and it has to make sure that it adheres to the Coastal Act, at least in California. So it's a really special place to work. Um, that being said, because it was a state environmental agency, it unfortunately was drastically underfunded, and a lot of really important projects were falling through the cracks. There wasn't enough funding for a lot of things that needed to get done. And I was noticing that a lot of projects were swayed by political interests and money. So a part of the work was really starting to rub me the wrong way. And that led to being one of the reasons that I decided to quit that job. It also was the impetus for starting to look into the field of study called ecopsychology, which I'm still very passionate about today. Um, and because of that interest in ecopsychology and how people think, feel, and behave within their relationship to the natural world, that sort of led me into my next job with Save California Salmon, which is a tribal organization. And tribes, they in the United States, they have been here. Their creation stories say that they have been here since time immemorial, since as long as they can remember, and they have been in good relationship with the land that their people have been living on all of that time, with a lot of great respect and reverence for all of the species and the plants and the seasons that their people have had to work with over time. Um, so it's a real honor to be working for this nonprofit today. And if you happen to be aware of, it's pretty big news, the Klamath Dam removals. Save California Salmon had a lot to do with that project. Basically, when you bring down dams, salmon are able to swim further upstream to their spawning grounds. And unfortunately, salmon are going extinct in a lot of Northern California rivers. So our work at the organization is to try to protect salmon as well as tribal water rights and their ways of life. And the way that we do that is by writing public comments, showing up to public hearings, making sure tribes have access to the information that they need for any sorts of projects that might be affecting their land or their water. Um, and if you've studied water politics at all, it's pretty intense because there's a limited amount of water. And so trying to keep water in rivers that need it for salmon survival and keeping adequate levels of water is important, because the lower the water gets, the warmer it gets, more algae blooms come up, and that can be toxic to drink and for species survival. So lots of really interesting things to get into when it comes to water politics. I'm sure it's probably quite similar here in Colorado as well. Um, and I have a little note here. We're hiring summer interns, so if that's something you would be interested in, if you'd like to work with me this summer, I would also love to hear from you for that reason. And on this next slide, whoop, go back one. This is another picture of Northern California with the red star being Arcata, where I grew up, and all of these different watersheds in the region. You'll see that there's a lot. We have a list of the 6 different rivers, as well as a list of the tribes that are all local to the region. There's also a photo of the Wiyot tribe, some of their members down at the bottom there. Okay, next slide. And so before I get to key takeaways and lessons learned, I want to pivot slightly to tell you about where I'm at now and a program that you might be interested in after graduating. And that is the Impact MBA program, the Master of Business Administration. The impact part in the name is to refer to having a social and sustainable impact through business. So it's using business for good. And we have a really diverse student profile. We have people from all over the world come through this program. We all have the shared desire to use business for good. And it's quite a variety of backgrounds. Like we have people who have just come out of undergrad and people like me who have been working for a good number of years and are coming back to school. So big age range as well. It requires 31 credits of core business courses that are all integrated with sustainability. So that was the reason that I was really interested in this MBA program, because I do have that environmental background. It was really important to me. And then 13 credits that you can use for electives or towards a graduate certificate. So here are some examples of the certificates that you can get within your program. And the one that I'm doing is that organizational leadership one. And the reason I chose that is because I'm looking for a little bit more upward momentum when it comes to my career path. I would either like to take on a managerial position or a leadership role by starting my own nonprofit. So this has been really interesting and helpful for gathering leadership expertise. And then over here on the right, we have some examples of electives that you would be able to take. There's also something called a ramp up program, which means you'd be able to apply some of your undergraduate credits to this program, which would help you to graduate even faster and save some money. Here's a sample of the core curriculum for fall year 1, spring year 1, summer and fall year 2. And you'll notice here for summer, there is an internship that is a part of the program. And I think this is a really cool feature. Over the summer, we're paired with a lot of these awesome organizations. You can see those logos there. For a 400-hour internship, and that helps you to get even more experience and exposure into the world of sustainable business. And all of these logos are places that people within the program have previously interned with, which is pretty cool. Here are some examples of directions you could take after graduating. People will become sustainability consultants, or they might take on more of an entrepreneurial role. A lot of companies have sustainability roles within them, so becoming a sustainability manager, for example, or you can contribute to thought leadership. So maybe you're interested in green certifications or organizations that contribute to thought leadership as a whole. Here are some success outcomes for the Impact MBA graduates. These are real statistics from our program specifically. And so, if you are interested in this program or are curious to learn more about it, I have included a QR code here that you can scan with your phone. That will take you to our LinkedIn page, and we advertise events, updates, and also have recently been posting Impact MBA alumni success stories. So just advertising the impact that our alumni have had out in the world. It's been pretty cool to read those. Okay, so as promised, I would love to share some key takeaways and lessons learned from where I'm at in my career so far. So, when it comes to your early career, I would encourage you to start before you feel ready. So, what I mean by this is that, especially if you're doing an internship or are in an early stage career role, these are designed for you to figure out what you like and what you don't like in a job. And this will help you figure out some structure and some guidance for yourself as you go. Second thing, translating complex environmental information is a key skill. In environmental roles, you're often going to be taking complex environmental information, environmental data, and synthesizing and analyzing it, and will be responsible for translating it into something that is digestible and understandable for the general public. This is very common for environmental work because often the nature of environmental problems, like for example, pollution, it's hard to understand and grasp or measure or even see. Sometimes pollution is invisible, right? So you would be responsible for making that important thing visible, and coming up with actionable steps for other people who are not working in the environmental field. And third, manage up if needed. So maybe you get lucky and you have a manager that is super invested in your growth, and that's amazing. But on occasion, you'll get a manager that's really busy and doesn't have time or didn't really get management skills. And so managing up refers to requesting regular check-ins and feedback over time. And developing that relationship by initiating conversation. So don't be afraid to do that. Key takeaways from career building. Number one, follow your heart and your gut. And the reason I say this is the more that I've thought about environmental problems and solutions, the more I've realized that it's going to take everyone getting involved from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, and from all interests. Even if your passion is working at a bake shop, you can make that bake shop more sustainable. We need everyone all around to be working on sustainability. And so don't feel like you need to go work at a certain organization, a certain firm, just because you might have some environmental guilt. Go somewhere where you feel happy because then your work will feel easy. I'm sure you've heard that before. And I also say follow your gut because, like my example with the Coastal Commission, great place to work, but something didn't feel quite right. And I am so grateful that I decided to leave that job because now I'm working somewhere that I feel very passionately about. And my work is a lot easier, especially now that I'm juggling school and work. I feel good about everything I'm doing, and that makes the work a lot easier and it keeps me healthier and happier. Two, relationships shape opportunities. Just want to emphasize the importance of going to networking events and also following up with connections that you've made. Um, Regularly, because I think if you end up needing something from someone within the professional sphere, it's much better if you've had regular contact with them, even if it's something simple like you found an article that made you think of them, or you offer to do a little bit of research on the side and send it their way. This will go a long way when you realize you might need to reach out to them for help. Maybe you want to work at their company. Maybe you need a reference, for example. So just remember that relationships are really important. And that leads into my next one, find a mentor. Your mentor doesn't necessarily need to be at your workplace. It could be anyone that you admire. Maybe it's the way that they public speak, or maybe it's the way they carry themselves, or maybe it's the way they talk and about data or analyze data. Whatever it is, whatever skill or attribute you're looking to improve in yourself, if you can find someone like that, you might ask them if they would be open to being a mentor for you and having regular meetings. And just remembering that relationship and connection building, being able to offer them something in return, figuring out what they're interested in, what they're working on, and trying to lend a helping hand. And four, don't be afraid to pivot, like my example with the Coastal Commission, and also an example of moving from California to Colorado to pursue an MBA mid-career. Um, this goes also hand in hand with following your heart and your gut. It's change isn't bad. It's scary, but it often leads to a lot of greater good for yourself and your career. So I just want to encourage you to be brave in that sense. And last set of takeaways. This one is on self-leadership. Um, First, it's really important to celebrate both big and small wins. And I bring this up because in environmental work, it can often feel daunting, doom and gloom, scary, anxiety inducing, especially with the way the news works. So just remembering that there are also a lot of big wins in the environmental movement and small wins that are worth celebrating. So remember to celebrate your own individual wins and your team's wins along the way, because that helps you to keep um, stay motivated and keep fighting the long and the good fight. Next, mindset is everything. So looking over at the image on the right here, it's very important to be self-aware, aware of your thoughts and your feelings, the ability to self-regulate, especially stepping into more of a leadership role, um, which could be leading on a team or it could be leading yourself through life. This will also tie into self-motivation. All of these things are important as you enter the professional world. And lastly, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I should have put in your workplace as well. This reminds me of Naomi Klein's quote, think global, act local. So thinking about all of the world's environmental problems and then doing what you can within your community, within your workplace. Because like I said earlier, it's going to take everyone from all walks of life and all backgrounds in all different countries, in all different states, municipalities, organizations. And so find your place, find what makes you feel happiest within the realm of sustainability and make the changes. And don't be afraid to be the leader, especially if you end up in an organization that's not necessarily sustainable or environmental. You can initiate those changes yourself, and it is very important. So next slide. I just want to thank you all for listening, and hopefully you got some helpful takeaways from this. If you have any questions or just want to say hello, I've put this QR scan code, which will take you to my LinkedIn, and you're welcome to reach out with any questions, comments, or just to say hi and get connected generally. I would love to hear from you. So thank you so much, and best of luck with everything.